I'm Nick Terzo, and you're listening to The Radical. Today, I speak to a band that describes their music as cumbia meets psychedelic. Again, I get the privilege to talk to young artists about their path, influences, and aspirations. And those still in their 20s, both these guys have the chops to have performed with bands such as Calexico, the Mexican Institute of Sound, Afro-Cuban All-Stars, and Orquestra Mendoza. Their new project, Strike Back, is a Spanish-language record that encompasses incredible musicianship and style. Hailing from Tucson, I'm joined today by Saul Millan and Caleb Michel of Los Esplifs. This young band is full of incredible talent, uniqueness, and promise. Coming up, my conversation with Saul and Caleb of the band Los Esplifs. Welcome, Saul, and welcome, Caleb. I'm happy to have you guys here, otherwise known as Los Esplifs.
Yup. How are you?
Awesome. You guys are clearly into some kind of organic gardening with that name.
Basil. Yep. It's now legal to grow basil in Arizona, so yeah.
There you go.
We capitalize on it. Smoke it up.
Fantastic. How long have you guys known of each other, and played like in this iteration?
Oh, dang. At least my recollection of knowing Caleb, I know I'm 26 now, and I know him since we're like 20 years old. But I just saw him on like a gig. He was playing like at the Phoenix Jazz Club, the Nash, just like some jazz show. And I saw him play congas, and I was like, holy shit, like there's another cat that's like my age that's super interested in this. And like, it was awesome.
I remember that because Saul was wearing Yeezys, and I was like, there's a guy who's showing up to the Nash Jazz Club in Yeezys.
Yeah.
So stylish.
He said I was at the wrong gig.
Yeah.
But then he bought some, so that
literally.
And started playing the gigs with them. So yeah, I don't know.
And so when did you guys kind of form as Los Esplifs and as a duo? When did that kind of start?
Oh well, that was kind of like we started hanging out around summertime of 18 because we started playing together in Vox Urbana, this band like from Tucson that's like it's probably like 15 years now in the game, and like just some grassroots kind of ensemble, Latin ensemble. And we started just getting together and playing in that ensemble together. And after that, we wanted to do Los Esplifs, and that was like around November of 2018. So we conceived of it around May of 2018, and we actually were playing at around September. Yeah.
Right. And so this new record is your second then together as a full studio record?
Yeah. Yeah, this is our first studio record. The other one was an EP. But yeah, it's second work, yeah.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, and it's all Spanish language, yeah. It's not really Spanglish. I mean, it's Spanish.
Full on Spanish.
It's Spanish, but I think it's understandable to our English speaking audience too. At least the vibe comes across pretty well.
I agree with that. So there's only two of you. So, I mean, how did you guys actually create this? Because it sounds like it's a lot larger in size. So you must have had some collaborators.
Well, it's actually a 5 to 6 piece band because some of the members kind of rotate, but there's like a core group that we use who are Los Esplifs. And we're just like the creators of the band.
Yeah.
And we're pretty. So we use our face a lot.
Yeah. And our collaborators are like, when we started conceiving the band, like we were already playing in a bunch of Phoenix ensembles and stuff like that. So then we kind of, and Tucson ensembles. So then we kind of like put together the best players from all those bands.
Yeah.
Like we got Casey Hadland and Gus Woodrow from Mesquite, this psych band from Tucson. Super killing. And then this bass player is Chris Del Favero from a super cool band named Jerusafunk, where we were part of that band. Yeah. And then Zach Parker is also part of that band, who's the guitarist, and he also was part of this indie rock band called Proteins. So, and then our producer for this record, his name is Wally Budaway, and he produced for the Proteins, Los Puchos, the Eeks, Slow Moses. So like,
yeah, we like to joke around and say it's a band of band leaders.
Yep.
Like all of our favorite bands, or a few of our favorite bands in Arizona, we just got the band leaders and just like turned them into.
And what's the instrumentation like throughout the record? I mean, there's a lot going on. Who's playing what and what's being played?
Oh, so like I think for this record, the main synth line was like just a microKORG with like a kind of like a Memory Man delay on it, just to as a lead, and then there's two guitars on it.
That's him on synth.
That's me on synth. There's two guitars on it, and that's Wally Budaway on one of them, the engineer and producer. The other one's Zach Parker on guitar.
Chris plays a solo too in the Otro País.
Yeah, Chris Del Favero, the bass player, plays the Otro País solo. But he plays bass throughout the whole album, and then Casey Hadland plays drums, and then Caleb plays pretty much like all of the percussion that you hear on the record. So that's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. And you guys have like an interesting background of some of the projects you've been involved with, right? You've played with people like Calexico and the Mexican Institute of Sound, the Astro Cuban All-Stars, yes, at a very young age.
Yeah.
Is that you, Caleb, that did that?
Yeah.
Wow, you were 19.
Mm-hmm.
So did you tour with these guys or mostly record with these projects?
I recorded a couple things with for Afro-Cuban. And then I toured with them for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Right now, because of the pandemic, we're not playing, but with the next tour, I'll be on that too.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. So Saul, you've been involved then with Calexico and the Mexican Institute of Sound. Is that you?
Yeah. So, I started working with them around 2015, and I started working with Sergio Mendoza from Tucson. He's like a member of Orquesta Mendoza. I started playing in that group, and after that, when I was like 19, and then I met Camilo and I hopped on his tour when I was like 22, 23. And just meeting them and working with them, Calexico as well. Like I did a couple runs with Iron and Wine and their last tour and stuff like that. They're just awesome community members that like see other people like doing really cool stuff in the community, and they're like super awesome about helping out and seeing that.
Yeah. While we're on the community part of this, I mean, my experience, having been around Tucson a little bit, is that there's kind of this amazing kind of community of musicians that I think gets overlooked a lot. I mean, certainly more fascinating and curious than Phoenix. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about Tucson, like as a music community?
I just moved to Tucson. What month is it? It's February. I moved to Tucson 4 months ago.
Well, you can't talk about it then, so okay.
I moved to Tucson specifically because I felt like the community that I experienced every time that I was in Tucson, because I would come here a lot, like a few times a month usually, and I felt like all the people that I met in such a short span of time of me just visiting was like they were all amazing. They're all super nice and willing to collaborate. And not even just musicians, but artists in general, like all facets of art. It's pretty sick. But Saul knows Tucson more than I do.
Yeah, I'm from Nogales, but when I came to college, I came to Tucson. And so I've been here since I was 18. I moved to Phoenix for like a couple of years, and that's where we met and actually hung out. But I returned like maybe it's going to be 9 months ago. And honestly, like Tucson's always been like a hidden gem in music, because a lot of the projects that come out of here and that you get to work on are super underground big, and they get a lot of recognition. And a lot of the work that is done here is actually, a lot of those records are made here in Tucson. So there's a big outreach of like being able to be in the view of like really awesome projects. So it's kind of like unique in a way that like you don't have to be in like a big city to experience a huge scene, it's
right. And
it's very amazing in that way.
What do you think the catalyst for that is? I mean, is there something that everyone kind of organizes around? I mean, is it the recording studios? I mean, what really is it? Is it the Latin culture, Latino culture? I mean, what's really driving it there?
I think it's like studios specifically is what's been driving that, and like the culture of like, Calexico and Giant Sand are like a really, really, really big deal in the community, because they set like in the 90s and late 80s set like a very big circuit for our sound, and like the establishment of that to be even profitable for musicians even. So they also set up their streamlined recording of record making, of video making. So a lot of people are in town because of the legacy of that and continue to make work because of that. Like I work at Dust and Stone Recording Studios with Gabriel Sullivan, who's like the member of Giant Sand. And you know, and he's the band leader of Siksa. So it's like, it's awesome to be like in the studio, and in the community is leading those records. You know, they're leading more Siksa records, more Giant Sound stuff. And like the fact that there's studios dedicated for that type of work. And Sergio's got his own stuff too. And there's a lot of different musicians here in town, like that do different types of music that have their studios. It's kind of crazy. There's like, I counted the other day, there's like 6 Tascam 388s in Tucson. So that's like.
Also, honestly, this is a little far out, but I feel like there's like a vibe in Tucson.
Yeah.
Like all of the settlements in the 1800s and like there's like crazy architecture. The streets are still crazy. You can tell it's a border city too. You know, you can see Mexico, like not physically see it, but you can see it around you in different ways. The people, you can feel like there's this Western vibe to it, but it's a modern Western, but everybody is like embrace. It's like this weird vibe where it just lends itself to art.
Weirdly, even racially, like, you know, like people are more balanced here, like as in a sense of like the community of white folks with Latino people, like the synergy is a lot better than I feel like in a lot of different towns. So I think that's also a driving force in the community, you know.
And how do you explain with Los Esplifs how do you explain the music that you make? I mean, I've seen Cumbia meets psychedelic. I mean, what's the psychedelic thing? Can you explain some of that to me?
We're young and we've done drugs.
Is that all it comes down to?
No.
I think the music, like itself, one approach that I see of a psychedelic movement, and that I place our record in that vein, is that, like, for example, we're really big fans of the Fania movement of the late 70s and 80s. And a lot of those musicians around the Boogaloo era created albums that were very similar to like our albums, and they were calling it psychedelic because of the times. And I think that we're at the point in history where it's like similar times are happening since those times. And I think that's why the term psychedelic or psych music has that like bridging gap, because a lot of the movements that are happening in the 70s in New York were like incredibly dangerous in talks of like social movements. Yeah, social movements, and that's kind of like what's happening right now. And our music is sort of like trying to reflect that in a way that's not that poignant. And I feel like that's the way those other musicians were also reflecting it, in a sense of like rebellion, in a sense of, experimentation.
It was like, I mean, like the way my dad always explains it to me. My dad grew up in New York and was like very close with this whole Fania movement. And the way he always explains it to me in Saul is just like, it was like a bunch of Black Puerto Ricans and Black Dominicans and brown Puerto Ricans, brown Dominicans and Cubans and Hondureños and Panameños, all these like Latin cats in New York, obviously, which is another huge feature. And suddenly, like the Cuban embargo happened, Cuba shut down. So, which Cuba represents this huge hub of music for all of Latin America, like one of the most important hubs of music that influences all of Spanish-speaking, the Spanish-speaking world. And suddenly that got shut down. So all these cats in New York that loved that sound and that felt like that sound represented them had to take the responsibility to like display it, to like, send that message still out to the world. And the way they did it is they incorporated their New York life, their Americanized life, which was like, at the time it was like punk. It was hustlers, thugs, all these cats and their parents, how their grandparents influenced them, their grandparents being super traditionalists, but them being New York thugs. And and New York, Playboys and all this stuff. And I feel like our music kind of has that same vibe to it in terms of we are Americanized Latinos that are brown, black, and white, and we have to represent ourselves in a way that, unfortunately, for a lot of people in charge, goes against what they want. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, we've been described as psychedelic, like Saul was saying. We've also been described as punk, which is wild. Always surprises me because I'm like, how the hell am I punk?
Yeah. A lot of the psychedelic aspect also comes with like presenting this content in a place where it shouldn't otherwise exist. And that's something that like we try to really place in the booking of it. Like, we'll play with a punk band. Like we have been playing with punk bands, and that's like the most ideal thing where like listening to cumbia music is a psychedelic experience within itself, because you don't expect something like that to happen. And for a lot of the kids, Latino and white kids, anybody, it's like they've never been introduced to this music. And I feel like that itself, when you watch live, is a psychedelic experience, the way we're kind of like creating it,
Got it. And let's talk about the record a little bit and maybe some of the themes that you have in this record. Otro país, I mean, I suppose, another country. Says a lot right there. And is that part of the themes kind of, is it another country? Was I right with that translation?
Yeah.
Talk about the record and some of the themes thematically in it.
Otro país specifically, I was like working really hard one summer. And it was really hot and I was always tired. And I like lost all this weight and it was like bad. You know what I mean? And then I started realizing like, why am I still struggling to pay rent? And it was like the elections were about to start going on and there was all this political talk. And there's these albums that I listened to from the 80s that have the same theme of like political talk. One song in particular that says like, se acaban las elecciones. It's like, man, elections are over and the same shit goes on and they say this and they say that and they promise this and they promise that, but nothing ever changes. And I remember one day listening to that and being like, damn, that's exactly true. Like, here I am, elections are going on, they're promising all these things. I got a stimulus, but it didn't last me very long. And here I am struggling to pay rent. And so that's what that song was about. It was like, and it's called Another Country, Otro País, specifically because I wanted to leave it open-ended enough so that anyone in any country could hear that song and feel, yeah, I want to go to a different country. Because there are kids right now in Guatemala that want to come to the United States looking for a better life. Just like there are kids
here in America
that want to
like, fuck,
we want to go to Spain or we want to go to Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's an endless cycle. And so that's why it's called Otro País and not Fuera de Estados Unidos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like all of us are affected by kind of like the decisions of the same people,
and this arbitrariness of like what that actually means, and that if you go to another place, it'll probably be the same for you or a different thing, so it's like, even if you escape, at the end of the day, it'll be the same shit,
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a dark humor take of that.
Yeah.
Reverse immigration in America.
Reverse immigration.
And is the rest of the music on there kind of socio-political, or is some of it more kind of free and loose and fun?
Well, the thing is, it's like, we couldn't actually, like, now that you actually asked the question, we couldn't really escape it, because like the moment of the recording was March of 2020 and it ended in July of 2020, around there. So it's like, we couldn't escape talking about the stuff that was happening. I don't know.
But that wasn't the intention.
Yeah.
We're not like a political. I wouldn't say we're a political band. I think that there's just a lot of shit going on in politics, and so it's
we
getting
couldn't
into
escape
our art.
it. Yeah, we couldn't escape it.
But I wouldn't say that our messages are political. I would say that our messages are just about life and all of the things that we're always constantly, because we constantly think about these things, whether you follow politics or not. You know what I mean? Like, you don't got to be in politics to wonder if you're going to make rent. You know what I mean? Or to see, like, why was I treated like that even, while I'm black? Why was I treated like that? I mean,
and there's a lot of like, I guess it's like the whole album is kind of like a critiques a little bit of like what it means, and kind of like albums that we would like to listen to. Also, it's kind of like the basis of of that album. And like, I guess there's another theme of like the last song is like a very old style song, and like the skit before it kind of puts it into perspective of what we're talking about, and which is like the dialect between the older generation talking to the newer generation. But it is like breaking where we're the ones making the music and we're the newer generation. So it's like, that's kind of like the themes that we're trying to target, is like just things that like Latino kids think about also, you know, like our second single, Galaxia, is something that like is an identity crisis like thing that I've written about. And that's like the main kind of thing of the song. And it's abstractly there. It's obviously not just saying like I'm having an identity crisis because of the border, you know, like it's like just what it is, you know. But I think that a lot of Latino kids are thinking the same things, and we're trying to like create songs that like speak to them as well, like that create like a cool ambiance for everybody else to dance to and stuff. But
yeah, we just make music for our friends and people that we want to be our friends.
Yeah.
Good to know. That's really good. So let me ask you, is you know, this Latinx term that comes up all the time, is that a proper term? I mean, just to describe the Latin community now? I mean, is that, it's what do you
crazy.
guys?
I mean, I've been crazy like talking about this on Clubhouse weirdly. So I don't know. It's like a lot of the stuff of just like any label that has to do with culture already like separates us completely from normality. So, but this one tries to approach like some midway term where like at least there's a larger aspect of Latinidad inside of Latinx, you know, as a term. So it's kind of like there as far as like musical genre to be called Latinx. I mean, it's cool because I like it because it opens up the horizon of like what Latin music per se in quotations could be. You know, it could still be singer songwriter, but it happens to be somebody from Mexico. You know, so that term kind of like, hopefully if it's taken correctly by the media in the next 10 years, can be like a positive thing for the movement of like assimilation to the bigger mainstream kind of world. You know.
Also, like we don't want to be gender biased. Also. So
yeah.
X.
Yeah. Right. X is good. It's very inclusive.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, because I just didn't know as a white guy, you know, it's like, how's this term used? Like, I'm not in the community. And I keep seeing this everywhere now.
As a Black Latino, I don't know it very well either. I just be nice to each other, you know?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. So I don't know, you know, we're in a new world and things are kind of changing every day. And I just walking my PC line here.
It's good for
a little bit. So, I mean, it's an exciting time though for like Latino music, right? I mean, you've got some of the biggest releases and commercially successful releases coming out of, you know, Puerto Rico and Colombia and Mexico. I mean, this is like a fabulous time kind of for finally. I mean, not finally, it's been there forever, but it's getting its due.
Of course. Yeah. It's super awesome. I'm specifically a fan of all the Puerto Rican and Colombian reggaeton. It's like incredible.
Yeah, those guys are slaying it. Those two places, it's amazing. So, is there a career you guys like really would like emulate? I mean, is there an artist whose career you're like, you know what? If I had that career, I am golden.
There's two artists. One of them recently passed away like a week ago, which really broke me. But because he's been my idol since I started playing music when I was 4, and that's Johnny Pacheco. Is like one of my biggest idols. Because Johnny Pacheco did what I mean, it's controversial. I hang around Cubans a lot, like real Cubans. And it's controversial because Johnny Pacheco, he, you know, some people say that he took credit for Cuban music, which I don't agree with. I think he helped Cuban music become the huge worldwide thing that it is now. And I think that's beautiful. I think Johnny Pacheco, being Dominican myself and him being from Dominican Republic and taking a music that's not from Dominican Republic, you know what I mean? But like exploding into it, and for his entire life and giving so many people opportunity. He created Fania, and he's like the reason that we are having this talk with you right now. You know, if it weren't for Johnny Pacheco. And then my band leader, Juan de Marcos, I think is like an amazing person. He's like an idol of mine.
Yeah. For me, it would have to be Camilo Lara from Mexican Still Sound. Like that cat, like killer. Ever since I got close to him, I started noticing like how much of a genius he is when it comes to creativity and creating stuff and always constantly making stuff. The other person that I feel like would be a cool career is like Residente from Calle 13.
I was literally thinking Residente.
That band Calle 13 is like the closest I feel like that there is to Los Esplifs that exists, you know, like, and that has existed, I think, in the last 10 years. So something like Calle 13 is something I look up to, you know.
Right. And have you guys, I mean, prior to COVID, were you able to get any touring in as Los Esplifs or not too much?
Traveling, we did one outside of Arizona gig, and that was in Mexico. Yeah, it was in Hermosillo. That was like a one-off festival called Posadelic with the OCs, Ladies of LCD, and a bunch of really cool artists.
Yeah,
nice. So more touring to come then once we get a handle on all this.
If people listen to the record and they like it, I hope they want to hear it live.
How could they not?
It's crazy.
We prefer playing live because there's this energy that Los Esplifs creates when we play live that, I mean, we've done, because of COVID, we've done live sessions. We've done like just studio work where we're playing live in the studio, and we did this thing recently where it was like a live session in a studio, and our only audience member was our homie James, who used to live with us. James Tanner, shout out to James Tanner. James was the only person in the audience, and just because we had one person in the audience, the band like exploded into this whole performance, and we were fucking playing our asses off. Yeah. So like, I hope I can play in front of some random people in Paris. You know? Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys keep yourselves really busy. So how do you juggle like just your time amongst this many variety of projects?
Well, I mean, for me, it's like my main thing. I work at the Dust and Stone recording studio. So that's like, we just work on different projects. I'm there composing and stuff like that. So Los Esplifs is like kind of like my main kind of like gig and stuff like that. But all the other ones I treat as like informative to Los Esplifs, you know, like, so like, let's just say I play a gig with somebody somewhere that I'm not playing with Los Esplifs. It's like, how can I know that person so I can like play here with Los Esplifs, you know? So it's like, I don't know, that's kind of how I juggle it. It's kind of like working both gigs at the same time and kind of like seeing how I can fit Los Esplifs in the work I'm getting exposed to.
Right. And do you think because Tucson's kind of a smaller community, I mean, is it harder for young artists to build like a profile outside that becomes more of a national profile?
Well, I don't know. Like, right, we've had like awesome luck, dude. Like, so there's not like and support. Like, honestly, shouts out to Sixa, like those cats, like the cats from Calexico and Sergio Mendoza. Like, those cats are the ones that like, even from, I didn't have an amp and Sergio giving me all these amps to use on records, you know, like even from that type of stuff, it's like, those cats are super helpful. They've already laid the groundwork and understand that like cats from here, like there's not that many opportunities. So like they've already laid the groundwork in Europe and stuff. So it's like, it's a lot quicker and a lot more simpler because at least for us, it was because the community is so strong, you know, like everybody's trying to help us. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. I love that. So, you've explained, you've mentioned a lot of artists down there. So, I mean, is there anything currently you're kind of listening to that really, you know, aside from your own music, that you're totally in love with?
I've been listening to this album called Grandiosa, I think, or Grandeza by the artist named Cesa from Brazil.
I was going to say Cesa.
It's so incredible. It's like,
Cesa's shit.
Wow. Our bass player, Chris, showed it to us like maybe a year ago. But then like he also like shows me thousands of tracks like a month. So I didn't check it out. And then like maybe last month, it just randomly appeared on on my radar, and I listened to it, and it was like so amazing. The same quality of recording that we did, turns out they use the same machines and same setup. So it was like incredible to hear another musician using the same machines, which is just like super rare and like weird. And it was so awesome to hear his qualities of like free jazz and Brazilian music. It was really cool.
Yeah. Your record does sound tremendous.
Thank you.
So I didn't mention that earlier, so I'm glad you brought that up yourself, kind of a little, because it sounds fantastic. So you recorded it really well, or whoever you had produced it with you.
we
did a hell of a job.
In a living room.
Living room.
Really?
Yeah.
And even one of the tracks we recorded inside of a closet.
Yeah.
Like
we were moving out of this place, and I had this huge closet, so we were like, "Fuck, we got to use this closet." So we used it for one track.
Yeah, and we called it bedroom song. You know, it's like bedroom pop, but
yeah, literally.
It's like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah, the producer of my podcast keeps insisting I find a closet to record in. Yeah. It's like, quit recording in bigger rooms. Yeah. Go in a closet and do it. So.
I can recommend the clothing that you can use to lay the walls with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm excited for you guys. I love this record. I hope people dig it. I think it's tremendous. So congratulations. And
thanks so much for having us.
Thank you guys for doing this. And I look forward to someday seeing you guys do this live, because I think that would be incredible.
Where are you located at right now?
I'm in Asheville.
Asheville?
So
we'll definitely hit you up when we're there.
Asheville. I've been to Asheville. I like Asheville.
Not Asheville, Nashville.
Oh, Nashville. Oh, I don't like Nashville.
There you go.
We'll see you there in Nashville.
You're starting a beef already?
Yeah.
Jeez.
No, right. Let me talk to you real quick. Yeah.
Caleb, Saul, thank you so much, both of you. I look forward to people hearing this record. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening this week. To follow what's going on with this podcast, you can go to theradicalpod.com. theradicalpod.com. You'll find show notes and past episodes, and even a little swag there if you want a t-shirt or a hat. I would be honored if you'd subscribe at Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next week.